apparently I'm going to be muted. Alright, so I'm no longer muted, which is fine. So I'm going to get some music going in the background. And I'm see if I can turn this down a little bit. Alright. So we got that. We're going to drop the music in the background a little bit. Hopefully it's still there. Doesn't need to be super loud. Okay. So what's next? Well, we're working on this page. And let's go ahead and open up the application, and we're going to walk through the page that we were working on. So when we go to our data and we have a list of our servers, we have a data grid that reflects the servers. And if we open up one of those, we can then see the name, the description, and whether or not it's going to be selectable. We have a toggle at the top that allows us to say, is this selectable for interface creation or not? Okay. And, alright, good. So my audio's down a little bit. So none of that works, and it won't let you type into it. You can select, but you can't copy, but you can then hit edit, then it unlocks, and then you can correct any typos or anything like that. Stuff like that, and then you can hit save. Now there's going to be another button here that we were working on that would take you back to the list form, that you wouldn't have to use the back arrow, that you would actually navigate to the list form again. So we would want that there, because the back isn't necessarily clear. And then this one is like the related databases, which we wanted an add button to say, hey, we want to add a database to this server. We have that sort of thing. So I am noticing that the SQL Databases tab doesn't have rounded corners like the other one, so it probably should benefit from those. And it does also look like my screen is off the screen. There we go. All right, so that's fixed. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this out. And let's fix a couple of those things. So when we look at our detail page, and we'll select our SQL Databases tab, we can then apply our style. Okay, not stick, but style. Alright, we'll pick on a dynamic resource for detail top. And you'll notice now, because we have all of those styles filled in, it automatically filled in the rounded corners, and it'll standardize the font and stuff like that. So when we go back to the definition of that style, you can see that this is working on Focus Visual 1. We have our foreground, our background, our margin, our padding, our alignment. Then we have a template in there, which then has some other information like our content presenter, stuff like that. So we're just going to add some formatting to this. We can see what's going on there. Okay. Does look like we have a few properties that are really hard to read because they're so far over, but we'll move that down. Okay. Now what we'll notice is that we have this focus visual 1, which means there was already a focus visual somewhere, and we'll go to the definition of that. Okay, and we're just going to take that out of there because this isn't part of the system colors, this is more of a system style. So we have our geometry, we have our colors, here's system styles, we have a focus visual. So if we place this down here as Focus Visual 1, we can check the difference. And in reality, this is just a margin, a stroke dash away, a stroke, device pixels, and stroke thickness, which is, I think, the same exact thing as Focus Visual 1. So we can probably get rid of Focus Visual 1. And so we can just do a quick find within the current document, find out what it is. And again, we have another one, Focus Visual 2. So we're going to get rid of that. And then we have Focus Visual 3, which we'll get rid of that too. Okay. So now we want to make sure that everything that's doing static resource Focus Visual isn't going to Focus Visual 1 or 2 or 3. It's just going to this one. So it looks like most of these are going to the right one. Let's just see if we find one with a 1. Look at that, we found with a 1. Okay. And now we can remove that, go to the next one. We have the same issue. Now we can thumb through this one at a time, or we can do like a find and replace type of deal. So we don't seem to have a Focus Visual 2 referenced anywhere in the current document, which is a good thing. So we're just going to kind of scroll up to the top here because we have some cleaning up to do. This one is system colors, so these are like gradient brushes, which is fine. And if we minimize these sections, we can leave those alone, but they don't really have great names. They're just navigation window, navigation button filled, hovered, whatever. And then this one is tab item selected background and border. Tab item static background, tab item static color, tab item mouse over. So these are really tab item colors, but they're in the system colors section. And since they're specified so nicely, we're probably just going to take these. Okay. Actually, let me take more of those tab items, all of these. Okay. Let's split the window so we can leave ourselves where we're at there, and then we'll go down in the lower window to like our colors section. So this is system colors, then we have the add new colors, edit colors, small text box. Here we go. So we'll create a new region, and we're going to call it, why don't I have a region? All right, that's right, we're in this, so we have to do a region this way, and they'll say tab item colors. Okay, we want to make sure to close the region, tab item colors, and then we will paste in the colors that we had. Okay, so that makes them really easy to work with. Now up here, we have some pretty standard like text box colors and some button colors, but this isn't very specific. Like what kind of button colors are these? You know, for what sort of button? And then this is a style for an editable text box, which is kind of weird because the style is in the colors section. So we're going to take that out of there, and then we'll go down here to system styles. We have menu scroll bar, we have a component, a control template, another style, and we'll put it down here. Okay, so now we have another style in here. And then we're going to grab, we have some more colors up top, which we can always clear up the formatting of these later. They seem to function, and we'll add white space and formatting and whatever, we'll come back around to it. But every time we've been making styles lately, it has been putting them in the wrong place. So these are all style tags that system objects have been made. And so we're just going to take that entire style section and go down here to system styles and put them in this area. Makes them easier to find and play with and everything else later. Okay, so then we have some colors for combo boxes, for buttons, etc. And they're in system colors. They were probably the default colors, even though I added a few more of these. But we'll want to know like what color button are we dealing with, because not all buttons are going to be that way. So we'll add some more custom colors. So for example, like the apply filter button has certain colors, and that's going to be for all apply filter buttons. And then we have colors for like an edit or an edit button, most likely. So we'll probably want to make some changes to that to make it clearer what we're talking about. We can get dragged down the rabbit hole of colors and styles and all of that stuff. In reality, we're looking for functionality, and because we're applying styles as we go, we can always come back and change the style in general very quickly. So if we're inside of here, we have our edit button, and we wanted a button that would go back to our list. This is where we would find that, and we could then put a name button. We'll call it Go to SQL Server List. Pretty simple. Put a click event on that. All right, and we'll also put a style on that. All right, grab a dynamic resource, and we'll just grab a menu button. Okay, now we'll also need a content. Return to SQL Server List. Okay, pretty simple. Now that's the menu button, and again, we can go into the menu button style here, and the background is looking at this transparent menu button static background, which is transparent. So if we go to this, instead of using transparent, let's go with white. Okay. So now that we're back to white, it looks, you know, a little bit more in tune with the one next to it. But you will notice too that the green button has a thicker border than this blue button. So we can simply, you know, go here and we can say border thickness. Maybe we want that to be a 2. Okay. And now it looks more consistent, but the text doesn't seem to have any extra spacing around it. Just, you know, it looks a bit crowded. Oh, not hard. Go away. Okay. So let's see if I can change modes of my computer here real quick, because okay, no, I'm in the right mode. Okay, very good. So we've returned to server list, and then we have an edit button. But you'll notice is like we have this extra space on the left, and we don't have the same amount of space at the bottom, probably because our padding is different. So that can be switched in the style as well. But this button's whole function, when we hit go to server list click, is we want to go back to the list. But we don't want to go navigate back through the stack, we want to just go to the list. So we're going to do actions. And I do think that if we do VM actions dot go, I think we called it nav to SQL Server List. Okay, that should take us right back to that list. Pretty simple. One line, one command. So we're going to go ahead and test that. And so we can go to our data and our servers, and we then have one of these, and we can return to the list, and it brings us right back to here. So that seems to work. Now we can always use the reverse, kind of keep going back, but simple enough. So on the left side here, we can see that we have a list button, but the background is transparent still, so we don't necessarily want that. We have a hide filters button, which you probably would benefit from having an icon, an arrow, something to show it going the right way. So that's something we can improve upon. But for the most part, it is it has some functionality. It allows us to go into it, allows us to edit it, allows it to save it. We do need to add a new option here. And I don't know that I like this gray bar here again, because we have the gray bar up top, and it makes more sense up there, but it might not make so much sense here. So that's a style we can probably remove, and then for refresh, next to refresh, we can probably put like an add. So let's go ahead and do that. And we want to change these things in the template as well, so that way we have this option as we copy the templates in other areas. So this is in the detail view. We'll go to our template detail view. Okay. We have our edit button, and then right next to our edit button, we're going to do that button again. Go to here. Alright, just like that. But it's not going to say server list. It's just going to say return to template list, right? And go to not SQL Server, but again, template list click, right? Because this is going to be the name of the button, not that. And so we'll hit go to definition here. So we have that again. This is a method, so we'll move this end region tag on the other side of this method. Say go to template list, same action we had inside of the SQL Server button. Go to definition. Yep. Okay. Grab this, copy. Combo boxes, SQL Server, templates. Yep. Go to definition. Okay, paste that. So it's not an app2 server list, but in this case it's an app2 templates list, because it is a template. So this says it doesn't have any references, but we know it does because it's here. We'll go ahead and hit build and make sure that that part stays put. Okay, that built successfully. Excellent. So a couple of things that we need to do inside of our template is we have text fields, we have integers, decimals, date pickers, and a foreign key combo box. What we don't seem to have is a toggle button to represent a Boolean field. So we're going to go to our template model, find our properties and fields, and we have a Boolean field here, where it's Boolean field yes and Boolean field no, and we were not complete on how this needs to work. So we're going to put a set command in here, and we're basically going to say is if value does not equal null, okay, and value, okay, so if the value is not null coming into this, because remember it's a nullable Boolean, but if it's not null and the value is 1, okay, then we're going to perform some actions. And that action is that we're going to set the field, which is Boolean field, to be equal, and we'll set it to the value. Okay. But we can't set it to the value because remember we're sending in a Boolean and this is an integer, so we're technically just going to set it to Boolean is 1. So yeah, and not then the value is true, okay, and then Boolean field is 1. Now we're setting it using the field name. We actually want to set it with the property name, because when we set it with the property name, then the property will call the set and it will update the ES field. Now we also need to update the no field, right? But we also need to prevent a loop here is we want to check basically say the value is null and the value is true, and the Boolean field does not equal value. Okay. So does not equal 0. Okay, so that's when we're checking like this field already. So does this not equal 1? Okay, so in this case we're saying, hey, if we get the Boolean field and it does not equal null and the Boolean field equals 1, we'll return true. In this case, when we're trying to set the value, we're saying if the value we're sending into it is not null and the value is true, which seems odd, but essentially we can't evaluate it to see if it's true if it's null, so it would fail there. Then here, if it's null, great. But if the Boolean field already is true, you know, as in a 1, we don't need to do anything. So in this case, if it's not 1, then we're going to set it to 1. Okay. And because we're setting it through the property thing, this notify property changed will fire. And that means, hey, everything that's, you know, looking for this, you need to change. Everything that's looking for this, you need to change. And then we'll do a couple more here. So we need the true, false, and then we need the text. So we'll do this one, and then we'll do this one. Okay, so that basically says, hey, if you're displaying the yes, no text, refresh it. If you're displaying true, false text, refresh it. Okay, so we have that one. Now, that was for the yes in the set value. Then we're going to switch this slightly. We're going to go to the no value, and we'll do a set here, but in this case we're going to reverse the logic. We're going to say if it does not equal no, and then we're going to set it to no or to 0. Okay, so that way we have that value as well. So now that we have the model represented, in this case, we want to put that on the view. So we'll go to our detail view. Okay. So at the bottom of this field or somewhere in here, you know, wherever we want to do it, we're going to put a new field. And then in this case, we have our label. Okay, again, content is going to be Boolean field. Stack panel, orientation, horizontal. And from there, we can put a toggle button in. Okay, pretty simple. We'll put 2 toggle buttons in. Simple there. We have a style that we already declared in the other one. Let's get rid of this. Style. Okay. And then we're going to use the yes toggle. Alright. And then the other one, we're going to use the no toggle. Now that standardizes the look, the feel, the size, the everything. And then all we need to do is bind the is checked binding to the current record Boolean field no value. Because this one is this one. Now this one is saying cannot work on the read-only property of Boolean no. Well, it's because we probably haven't rebuilt it yet. And it didn't have a set value before, but now it does. So we're going to go ahead and build. And the IntelliType should figure out that Boolean no is not a read-only. Okay, so we now have that. And then we're going to say is checked. And again, same thing here. We'll do our binding to our current record, our Boolean of yes. So is the value yes? That one's going to fill in. Is the value no? This one's going to be checked. Pretty straightforward, and then we have those options. Now the label up top here doesn't seem to have the style attached, so we're going to do that. Input control, and now you'll notice that the font size, color, arrangement all matches. So that's pretty easy. And then next to it, we can always put the text version if we so chose. Right, so we can do it like a text block, okay? And if we did the text value of the binding, the current record, Boolean field, text for yes or no, and then we can do our style, okay? You know, we can do whatever sort of text we want here. If we do instructions, that's fine, but we can also do a quick vertical alignment and say center. Alright, so this is just going to be the text version of whatever we selected there. We want to see that that works. So we have that option. And then we have the foreign key. Now for a foreign key field, we want the options to refresh the list. We also want the options to add new options to the list, etc. that will make sense. Now when we go to related, you'll see here that we had some additional options like page controls and headers and the sub page for this, but we have that refresh. We still don't have the add. So we're going to do a button, okay, and we'll do a style for this, and that's going to be an add button, just like that. Now, add record seems to have the same problem that some of the other buttons had, which it doesn't have the right color and it doesn't have the right background. So it's really simple. Just go to definition. Here, background is saying small add background, but this is the regular add. So then we could just do add new static background, right? And because we have a difference between small add and regular add, we're just going to make some tweaks to the colors being used here. Okay, and that seems to work. And then we also have some small add color references down here. So we'll make some quick changes to that. Okay. Now, something that this, yeah, there we go. That's fine. Okay. And this is add record side button, and this is add new instead of small add, which is fine. So I do believe there's going to be another style for a button called like small add or something like that. So we'll do a quick check just to make sure we have previous refresh settings, show hide, small add. Here we go. So small add makes sense that it's transparent because it was going to be like right next to a combo box or right above it or something like that. Now I can't tell, but it looks like the background's still transparent on the add record button. So we're gonna quick check that out. And the background here does show it to be white. Go to the definition of that. Yep, that does show white. So that's fine. We'll just do a quick build. Make sure that it comes through. Kind of hard to tell with the grayish background, but it does seem to be white. So, alright, there we go. So we have our related tab, we have our add record, and we'll do some content. And we'll just say the words add new. We don't have enough padding to the right side on the inside of this. You can see how the text is too close. So that's just one of those polishing points that definitely can help out. So we'll go to refresh here, and inside of this, you'll notice that it has a padding of 2, and then the text block has a margin of 3. So if we did a window split, and we went to our add record, okay, content presenter, which in this case we just had the text, right, not the content, but we had a margin. This one we don't seem to have a margin, so we're going to put a margin on here. Okay, so now we do seem to have a margin, much better than we did before, and that seems to work. Now this seems to have 2 columns where this is a stack panel, so that might help center things out a little bit more, but I think it's working just fine for now. We do seem to have a separator to the right of this one, the rectangle, the vertical separator. We can always put another one of those between the buttons if we wanted to, but I don't know that even it's going to be necessary. So, and then refresh, for whatever reason, is coming across as green. It might not make much more sense with that. But, so this border, we have the detail page related records button bar, which I don't know that having a gray bar up top and a gray bar inside the page makes the most visual sense. So we're going to just tweak this a little bit. So we'll just say transparent, border transparent, border thickness, we'll say 0. Corner radius, we'll say 0, margin, 0, padding, we'll say 2. Okay, so now it seems like everything's kind of stepped in a little bit more. We do have some additional space in here that we might not need. So put that back to 0 here. And my guess is it's this button probably has some extra space to what's going on here. So related records button bar, and then add new when we go to this. Does this have additional? Yeah, so it says there's 6 on the left and right, and there's 3 on the top and bottom for its margin, which is interesting because that seems like a lot of space. But we can make another sub style and then use that to where we don't have that margin. We can just use another one, right? So if we have an add record button side nav, we can actually do like an add record button related tab or something, right? That makes it really easy. And so if we just paste a new one in here, we can then say, hey, the margin is going to be 3 all the way around, but our style is going to be now add new record button related tab. Grab that style tag, and we'll switch this to that. Doesn't seem to like that. But that is what it's called. So we're just going to do a build on this and then see if it recognizes. And it might take a moment, but it's not recognizing it. Not quite sure why it's not recognizing this, but it's not seeing the end of that either. So most likely there's a style that's not ending correctly, right? So we have the setter value, we have the ending setter information, we have the control template. The control template seems to end the border. Triggers, again, the control template seems to end on here. Triggers seem to all end. It's fine. The border, the grid, the image, the content, the grid, border, all that seems to end properly. This one doesn't seem to like have any of that in it. So something's up with how this pasted. So let's just do a rebuild and see if the formatting pieces come in. But okay, so it kind of gives me a heads up that something's up here, and it looks like we're just missing the quotation. All right. So we'll save that, go back to here, and we should see our new style come in once we've built again. Okay. So hopefully this finishes building in a moment, and yep, now we can go to the related tab, and we have add new with a little bit more margin around it. And okay. That's our related records button bar with our add new related tab, so it has the correct padding around it. Makes sense. Okay. And because this is an add new related, we're just going to give it a name. Button add new related. Okay. Give it a click event. Behind that, we will then say, okay, bm.actions. nav2 templates new, just like that. Okay, now we have all these methods. Okay, lots of methods we haven't filled in yet, and we're just going to move this method's end tag to here. Okay, so combo page to view selection changed. That's going to call the page options for the related pages, for subpages. I just gotta do that. But the templates are a great way to speed up work as we go. But we need to keep in mind that users won't be able to see the templates, right? We'll just be using the templates to speed up our own work. So let's go back to SQL servers. The list, it should get us somewhere. So let's go to data, servers, excellent. We can open up a server. We can see if we have any databases. We don't have that add button, which we want. And then we have some record tracking, which again isn't super important, but we have that. So basic data, SQL databases. Now it does look like we're missing some padding around this because we have the button, but we don't have much else. So let's go ahead and grab detail. Okay, SQL databases, excellent. We have our button, but we just have our button in a stack panel, and we have the button in a border, which is fine, but what made it different from our template detail page? Let's go to our detail page over here. When we were on our related, in this section, we had a grid, right? We had a grid, and inside of that grid, we had a stack panel. Okay. But we don't seem to have the border, right? The box, like the related header type of deal in here. But we have a stack panel for the right and the left. Oh, there's our border. Okay. So why does that appear so much different than this? Interesting. Well, regardless of how it is, we have our button for refresh. Oh, you know what? This is refresh SQL data. Yeah, refresh SQL database list, right? And okay. Add new SQL database. Okay. Do a quick click on that. Excellent, and that's add new SQL database. All right, so then we have vm.actions for databases dot add SQL database. Okay, but this is actually going to be nav2 new SQL database, like this. Okay, so when we do that one and we hit go to definition, we will notice that it will open that up, right? So it says, hey, I have a page for the new entry, and we're going to set that page, and then we're going to tell the pop-up window to go to that page. But we want to fill something in, and we want to fill in the parent, like the server, the related record to this page. So a way that we can do that is when we go to our server, go to databases. Oh, we have two buttons that say refresh. We don't want that, so let's clear that out. Go to server detail. Okay, this one's supposed to be add new. So let's do button add. Save. I don't know why it did weird selections, but it did. Okay, so we have this one. We have add new, and then we'll say content, add related SQL database. Okay. And I don't necessarily need the word related. We can just say add SQL database, and then we can fill that in as part of this property. So this is the event, and we're going to say, hey, go to this. But it says we already have an overload. So let's go find out what that overload looks like. This one says nav2, and it says list SQL servers, parent SQL server. Interesting enough, so we've already done this somewhere else, and that's probably because when we did this somewhere else, we were on the interface creation where we already had a list of servers to work with, and then we already knew which server we were talking about. So we have to determine, like, where are we going to get a list of servers from to call this. But since we're in a form and the actions tab has, the actions class has a list of servers, okay, or at least it certainly should. So we have results servers, right, which is static, so we should be able to reuse this, and then we have the current record. So let's go ahead and go back to that function. And this is saying, hey, we're going somewhere, okay? And because this is the code behind file, we actually can do this in like the view model. So let's go to the definition of the view model, and we have the detail view model. We'll go to the detail view model here. And in here, we have things like the page title, we have the actions class, which is exactly what we wanted to use to send the list, in. So this is that SQL Server actions class. And then we have the method. So we're going to create a method here, and this one's just going to be public void add related SQL database. Okay, pretty simple. Now, because we are in the view model and we're probably going to make this more of a complicated method, we could add the appropriate code block stuff to this to make it easier. So I have a template code block that has no return, like this one. It has regions all set up and error handling and that fun stuff. So it basically says, hey, these are my declarations, my sets, my performing, my try-catch variable. So it just makes it super easy for me. And essentially what we want to do is we want to take the actions for SQL database, and we want to then nav to SQL database new, okay, and we have to give it some variables. Because it's the overloaded one, we have to give it a list of servers, and then we have to give it the parent SQL Server, which we're really talking about the current record SQL Server. But let's give it the list first. So now we can say actions dot list SQL Server, okay, which we should just be able to use the results SQL Server list, which is pretty simple, followed by the parent SQL Server or the current, I hit comma, yep, the current record, okay, and will that get me where I need to go? Well, the current record is a SQL Server detail view model, right? Which is the SQL Server model, which I think is exactly what this is asking for, which is a SQL Server model. Current record is a nullable one, but this isn't going to be null, so it should still compile and work. So it seems like a little more complicated than it is, but we're just going to nav to the page, and we're going to preload the list, and we're going to pre-select an option. So we'll go to our servers, go here, databases, we want to add a database. Okay, so we got to our break, and this is not calling the method we just did, but we're going to then do a add related SQL database, just like that. Okay, this is going to step into our view models property where it fills in everything else and it has our error handling. So we'll hit continue. You'll notice results has 3, current record is 1. We'll hit continue. And what we should see is we now have a new pop-up, which you can't see. Okay, so let me see if I can grab the other pop-up window. Okay, there it is. So now that I made that visible for you, you can see that SQL Server 3 is pre-selected in the filter, and then it's just a matter of adding a database name and a description. So we can say SQL Database 1 on Server 3 test. All right, so we'll continue. Now we can hit refresh here, and right away that appears, which is exactly what we wanted it to do, but we want it to be a little bit clearer to the user. When they add it and they fill it in, it should automatically refresh that list. So can we, after we hit this button, tell it to automatically hit that button? And I do believe we can. So this one, when we hit add new, because remember add related is going to be calling a nav2, right? And the nav2 is going to be calling this pop-up window go to page method. And pop-up window go to page, I do believe, does a dialog event. So it will freeze everything else and it will wait for the response from the dialog. So that means when it's done, okay, and we do our navigation, we should be able to then call this event. And we simply put that event here, like that. Now let's try it again and see if we can get the new one to appear. Okay. So we go to our data, our servers, open a server, go to databases. Okay. We don't have any on this one. We can, try and give it one. Continue. And we'll see the database fields appear. Okay, very good. Oh, my window capture doesn't seem to be quite right. No. No. There we go. Okay, so it was just showing the wrong window. Okay, so we have the database name, and we're going to say testdb on server 2. Okay, and we hit continue. Now it's gotten down to here, and we're going to hit, we're going to unshare that window so we don't have a big black box. We'll hit continue. Okay, we should see testdb on server 2. Okay, so that seems to have refreshed the list automatically and fluidly. So now that we've taken a couple of breaks out, I'm going to go ahead and add again, and we will reshare that window. Nope, that window's not sharing. Let's try that again. There we are. So this is another test DB on server 2, and we'll simply hit continue, and now it appears there. Okay, cool. So we have that option. So that means adding related works. It refreshes, that works. If I double click on one of these, I can put the navigation to then go to that database, because maybe we want to do that. Because if we're related to this, we should be able to just jump to it. And that should be the same navigation function then that the database list works on. So the data grid for SQL databases, when we're inside of the data grid view model, we have a method in here that says go to selected record. And go to selected record gets called when somebody double clicks the data grid results. So that's what we essentially want to do. And we're going to go to the detail. Okay. SQL database, we have our data grid here. Okay. And same sort of thing. We will then, we want to name the data grid. So data grid related SQL databases. Okay. And we can probably do related underscore SQL databases. And then we'll simply do a double click. If I could spell, of course, double click. And then we have that. And we'll simply hit go to m2. Alright, so we'll create this as a method inside of the view model. So let's go there. Go definition. Okay. And we were in the data grid view model. Here we had a method, and we're just going to put that similar method over here into this one. Okay, we have go to selected, and in this case not record, it's going to go to selected SQL database. Okay, now in this case you'll notice we don't have a selected SQL database because we weren't binding one. So we probably can do that. Pretty simple. We would just say simple SQL database model and we would call it selected SQL database. Equals new. Okay. Now, because it's just that, right? Go to our database data grid. We'll find that the selected SQL database is incorrect. It needs to be a database model, right? Okay. And then because this is the data grid for SQL databases, it does seem like we still have a bunch of templates in here. So we're going to switch it from templates to SQL database model within the current document. So that should make a difference. Okay, makes sense. And we'll just take the same sort of mechanism for the detail page, but we'll name it appropriately, right? So this is the selected SQL database inside of the detail, and we have that. So now we're going to say if the selected one is not equal null, then the actions, this says nav2 detail. Technically, we want the actions from SQL database, and then we're going to navigate. So we'll say actions, nav2, SQL database detail, and we have the selected SQL database. Okay, so we have that. And that should allow us to jump to the detail record of the SQL database that we selected. It's telling me I have an error. Okay. SQL database data grid template actions. All right, well that's fine, but we're going to switch the word templates underscore with SQL database underscore within the current document. Okay. And then we're going to do the other side of it too. Underscore templates with underscore SQL databases. Okay. So this is list SQL databases with results SQL databases from SQL database actions. Right back.
Some cash for this feeling. I had no feelings this weekend. So poor on myself, I feel weak. Money the root of all evil. I get my own money with people I evil Knievel. I push my own limits and leaders. I get it for cheaper cause I am the blood to my people. Eyes, faces, yo, ghost. I'm faded when I'm MI. Nigga wanna see me fall. I been focused on the door. I don't really give a damn about what they talking about. Town, y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page, but we still read that book and we still run that race. Mississippi racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi racer riding out to the see the signs, but every line I see is the finish line. I've been working real damn hard, but work only gets you so damn far. See, my mindset is on my progress. Every foot I take is just another step. They say practice makes perfect, but aren't you perfect if you always practice? I'm just trying to give you ideas how different thinking makes you accomplish, like walking on the moon. You believe it or you don't, I will never choke. One in on the wheel, one in on the shift. Like addicted smokers, I will never quit. Push me to the edge and I'ma fly on out. Push me down the path and I ain't crying loud. Got a lot of things playing on my brain. Got a lot of people saying it's okay. Guardian angel helping me escape. Lion is born and it was never made. Don't ever plan on following steps. I plan on being that one chase. Walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Mississippi racer riding out. No shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi racer riding out till the wheels fall off. I'm driving that. Mississippi racer riding out. We'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi racer riding out. Red light, green light, red light, green light. The hustle standing, flag no fail. Hold strong, people. Hold strong. Revolutionary, front line standing, solitary. Mind state, kinda scary. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and put me on the front line. 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 Hold strong. I'm battle tested. Hold strong. I'm battle tested. Hold strong. I'm battle tested. I'm battle tested. I'm battle tested. Hold strong.
All right, I'm back, and we're gonna see if we can get this to do something more than what we've been doing. Where are we at? To rebuild. It's gonna tell me some stuff's wrong. Object reference, non-static field, blah blah blah. Okay, fine. So we will then take actions, SQL database actions. No, we're in the database thing. We have properties and fields, page title. Actions is lowercase here, so we'll just use that. Okay, cool. Save. So the list is going to come from the class actions, or what I've nicknamed actions, and it's going to be the results. And then it will notify the list that, hey, you got to change, right? Now this shouldn't need a notifier because it should automatically notify in here. For whatever reason though, I had better luck telling it afterwards that it needed to update. So we have that. So let's see what we got. Okay, so we go to data, go to servers, we can see our list of servers, we can open one up, we can see our databases, we have our databases, we can then double click a database. I thought we could then go to a database, but it doesn't seem to be navigating. So let's take a look at that a little closer. Let's go to our server detail. Okay, databases, go here, double click, go to definition. Yep, VM, go to selected SQL database, like that. Save. Alright, now we have the code behind that calls the actual method, and the method gets us to where we want to go, or it should. So again, same thing, servers, open a server, databases, open a database, and now it should jump to where we want to go. So it's saying object is not set to an instance of an object. So our VM, our view model is null, essentially. So let's see if our issue is the fact that our detail page has nothing in it. And yeah, that's exactly what it is. So our detail view essentially has no binding, has no nothing. So let's go down to our templates for our view, how this is supposed to look, and let's not confuse ourselves. Let's go ahead and close all tabs. open our template detail view, open our SQL database detail view. Okay, we're just going to go over here to templates, and we're going to grab everything we can, say after here. Okay, and again, same thing. We have our local, paste. Okay, now it's almost all we need, except a couple things that are different, because we're going to grab features database. Okay, replace the word templates, and now it's view models, and this one's not going to work. So we would do SQL database detail, view model. We have our loaded and our unloaded, so we'll just go to the definition of those, and we'll see that the code behind has nothing in here. So we'll go to the template detail code behind. Okay, and we're going to copy basically everything there. And so we'll go to detail code behind. Let's do that way. All right, we have that. Paste and paste. Okay. Now, some things it says underscore templates, so we're just going to switch out underscore templates for underscore SQL databases and just refresh that. And I don't know if it needed to be plural, but yeah, well, I don't think it's plural, I think it's singular. So delete SQL database. Okay, and then we have all of the other actions, but again, this is nav to SQL database list, and this is then going to be nav to. Now this says SQL database new, but in reality, we don't even know what we're adding that's related. But since it's a database, the next related one is probably going to be a schema. So it's not going to be, you know, that one. It's going to be something else. So we'll put a break on this. And we'll come back to that one. All right. So now that we have that part done, if we reopen this, okay, and now we can go to the data, the list of servers, we can go to a server, we can go to the databases, we can jump to that database, and what we see is that we're now in a detail page, but we don't have anything loaded. Why don't we have anything loaded? That's a little strange. And actually, it looks like it went to the template page. And it's probably because we really didn't build it. We just kind of pasted everything in there. So the database detail view. Okay. So, I mean, we should have the ID, but you'll notice it says record ID. And so what we want to do is undo .record ID and switch that to SQL database ID in the current document. So we'll just replace that. Okay, and then these other ones are looking at current record like .text field, which isn't what we're looking for at all. So we're going to do text field, and this is going to be SQL database name. Okay. Continue. And then we'll swap the title. Switch SQL database name. And what we can do is we can just take both fields, the label and the text box. We then call a description. Right, it's pretty simple. Now this is all the database, so we can just remove that part. And then this will be .SQL database description. Okay. And then the foreign key list, which is this one, is going to be like parent server or something like that. So we'll grab the label for the integer, the decimal, the date field. None of these really matter. They're going to go away. Okay. And then the foreign key field is going to be parent SQL Server. Parent SQL Server. Okay. And this is combo, whether it's read-only or not, but it's not showing a list. So we do need an item source. And we'll do binding of a list combo box, basically. But I don't know that we have that, but we're going to find out. So SQL database says list combo box, which is not a great title. Okay, so we're just going to switch the underscore combo box with the underscore SQL databases within the current document, like that. Okay, pretty simple. Save. But this is a list of databases within the detail. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. So we'll probably switch this to servers instead of databases. So we'll just do SQL Server model. Okay. Then what we can do is we can just go down, select all of this, and we'll just underscore anything that is SQL databases, and we'll switch it to be SQL servers. Okay, we'll do that. Save. Now there should be a method somewhere to populate the combo boxes, and that would be like, hey, I need to get this list of servers that is here, right? And that means we would have to get it from like the actions class, right? So we can easily say private SQL database or SQL server actions, and again actions SQL server. It's new. Yep, I don't think we're going to access it publicly, but we might access it from another class. So we'll do the same thing. We'll put in our get. We'll put in our set. I don't think we'll need a set, but you know, whatever. We'll have it there. Okay, so we have action SQL Server. And to populate combo boxes, we would say list SQL servers is going to equal action SQL Server results SQL servers. Okay, and that's not a method, it's just a collection, so it's just an equals, and that would populate that. And then populate combo boxes gets called at a certain point, and then save record ends up being like actions dot update SQL Server or SQL database current record. Okay, so that's our save record command. Now, why the save record didn't have that in there, we'll probably have to check our templates for our detail view model. Here, we have a save record method. Okay, and then we have populate combo boxes if we had any combo boxes to populate, which of course we not sure that we have that one, but yeah, we do have a list, and combo box that isn't very explanatory, so we can rename this, right? But populate combo boxes, we would probably have list combo box, yep, like this, and we would then say actions dot results. Why is that not finding it? Because template actions probably doesn't have a results collection, was my guess. It does. It does have results templates. Okay, so we have actions dot Oh, results is static right here. So by making this part static, but it relies off the non-static, so we can take that one, copy it, we'll go here, then we can say results templates like that. Okay, but it's all based on a static property anyway, static field, so it should work that way. So let's go ahead and build and see what happens. Okay, so this one, it says Boolean field not found in the current record, and we're on the SQL database detail. So we essentially would want is, okay, so we have a Boolean field. So a parent SQL Server, and the Boolean field would be like, is the database selectable for testing, right? So let's check out the database properties and fields and see, does it have a field for us to work with? And we have the server ID and we have the parent server. We don't seem to have one. We can model this off the server's field. Is SQL Server selectable for interface creation? And we can take that exact section from there and go into the database here. And just do this. Then everything that's in this region that's currently saying is server selectable, we can say is server. Now it's cap sensitive at the moment, but if we take off the S and we just say server select S, switch it to database select, and we're inside of our selection, so even though the front I is capital or lower, it still captures from both sides. So then we can say replace, and now it is database selectable for interface creation, is database selectable, blah, 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 and all of those have been changed. Gotta love naming convention. So now we can grab this, save our model, close the model, and behind this one, then we can say is, and we'll see the ones that are for that, and then this one's a yes, and this one is a no. Okay, pretty simple. And then this text block is going to be the text, right? So then we can say text, yes, no. We should be able to see like how that comes out. So we have our database name. So the whole point is we want it to be able to navigate to the database detail form and see the information. So we're not going to build because there's an issue. So this one says the list of templates is a observable collection of nullable templates. This is an observable collection of nullable templates. And this is looking for the class, but we can just type in with actions, lowercase. So that should still get us our results the same way. All right, so now we have data. We can go to our server. Our server then has our databases. Go into our database, and oh, look at that. Nothing's here. Okay, why is nothing here? If we go out to our database list, here, we don't seem to have anything, even though it tries to go to nothing. So there's got to be something simple that's missing, right? So our detail view, okay, this looks at database view models. This is looking at detail view model. Let's go to definition on that. The constructor of the view model is fine. Okay. And so that's fine. Was it SQL Database Actions by chance? Where it says nav to detail, current record, go to, fields are loaded, main window, go to page. Okay, and this says the view model, or capture the detail view model, data context, and then we would go to the record, which is the database record we're giving it. Okay. So what's different with our servers? And when we go to, nope, these are SQLite methods, navigations. So we want to go to SQL Server detail. Okay. So current record, tracking fields there. Current record is go to. So let's compare the two. Okay, so this is go to database on the right, and this is go to server on the left. And server, database, all of which seems to be doing the same thing. Okay, so go to record here on the server side though. It's saying, it's saying basically get the rest of the value, the rest of the information about this field. And then current record is the go-to record. Okay, but this one doesn't have any related data yet, but we can always add more to it. And my guess is that the page detail, yeah. Okay, so we have SQL database detail, which is the view model. The data context is the view model. But the server, the solution. Okay, so if we want the server detail model, we have SQL Server detail view model and SQL database detail here. SQL database view model. What about the code behind? Data context VM. Yeah. Page loaded, populate combo boxes. Okay. Alright, so let's just run it and step through it and see where something's missing. So we go to data, we go to servers. We find a server, we double click on it. We're looking at the server, we find a database, we double click on it. Now, if we close the XAML preview, okay, in this case, page is null, but we're going to make a new page. Our go-to record is a database, right? It's not a database, actually. That's our problem right there. It's the binding of the data table. I just realized exactly what it was. Okay, so SQL Server detail view model here. Okay, this thing, when we're selecting something, we haven't found what the selected object is. So we're going to go to selected item, binding, selected SQL database. Boom. Because the one thing that we were missing was that when we say go to selected SQL database, definition, is that we weren't checking not just to see that the selected database was null, but that the ID was greater than 0. Because when we say go to selected in the detail view model here, if we went to the SQL Server data grid view model and we had a method to go to selected record, I wonder if we had it. Yeah, we have a check values here and it's trying to check to see if the ID is 0. And I'm guessing we're not doing the same method inside of the actions for SQL databases. So we have nav2 and we have check values. We're just checking to see if the database ID is 0, which seems like exactly what we're checking for. Hold on. Server actions. So we basically check to see first, is the server ID null, and then we check to see if the server ID is 0. In this case, this might be null. So it's null. We're going to put a break here, right? And that should prevent us from navigating to a null value. Okay. So we go to data, servers, server, databases, database. Okay, now it seems to have database ID is 4. Very good. And if we check out our record, we can then see we have our record information. So we'll hit continue, we'll go forward, our current record is here, we'll go forward. And now because of the binding, we actually have the database. The thing we don't seem to have is the parent SQL server, because we never populated the list when we were on the database detail page. So in here, we have a loaded event, go to definition, and it says populate combo boxes, go to definition, and this one says the list of SQL servers is a result to results SQL servers. In reality, we can just say dot list SQL servers, because I don't think it has them. At least I thought it had it because we were in the results and we had it for something else, but my guess is we don't have it anymore. So include new null record first, and we'll say false. Okay. No, well, yeah, say true. That's fine. So we have this part. Now, the parent SQL server that's being displayed in the detail page, this one here, it has our item source list SQL servers, so that might actually be populated. But then we do need to fill in some other information, like a couple of properties like display member path, which would be SQL server name. Okay, and then we have selected member path, which is then SQL server ID. Okay, and then we have selected selected item binding. Current record dot SQL parent SQL server. There it is. SQL server. Okay. And then selected value binding current record dot SQL server ID. So we have all the properties we need now. We're even going to give it a name. Combo parent SQL server. Save. So with all luck, that will display the appropriate record. And if it does, then I did this right. So we can go to our data, we can go to our servers, we can go into a server, we can see that, we can see our related databases, we can go into a database. Okay, we're going to take these breaks out because we know that they work. Continue. Let's see. Yep. Okay, we have our parent server, right? Now, I did not hit edit yet, and this is letting me change it. So we have to lock its editing capability for the dropdown. Same with the editing capability of the Boolean field, right? Based on if it's in editable mode or not. So let's close all tabs. Let's go to the detail page again. All right, and we'll go here. And this says is read only. Current record tracking fields is read only when not editable. I think we can also probably do enabled. enabled. Yep. Finding current record tracking fields dot editable. Okay, that one should work. That way it's locked, so you can't change it. And then same thing with Boolean fields here. We can then say enabled finding current record tracking editable is editable matches is enabled, and then same thing with this one. Okay. Okay, now it's disabled. So we're going to go ahead and rerun it and try and go to the details of a database. Okay, data, servers, server, databases, database. Okay, those are locked, those are locked. If I hit edit, those are unlocked. Then I can switch it to server 3. We can switch this to server 3. We can put in a description if we want. We can say no, it's not selected. And we can hit save. But save doesn't seem to be doing anything because this isn't going away. So, little things. So if we went up to edit, and there should be a button next to it that says button save, click, go to definition, says save record, go to definition, okay, save record says update SQL database, okay, let's go to that, we've passed in the record to be updated, and look at that, nothing is happening. There's actually nothing in here for it to do. So we probably have to like actually create the methods and stuff. If we went to our SQL Server actions, update Sqlite methods as an example, we could probably get an idea as to what we're looking for in here. It's probably just very, very similar to this. So we have this, and we'll go over to SQL Database Actions, update SQL Database. So let's just go ahead and paste over that because it was just empty. And here we go. So we have update SQL Database. We have return value, a string builder, a connection, a command. All right, those are fine. The return value, local connection string, those are all set. But then this talks about update SQLite. This is a variable that we don't necessarily have, but we had it over here. So why? What is this? Go to definition. All right, so this is a string that it's going to basically say update the table, set, and then some standard fields. So we're going to take that, and we're going here to SQL database actions, and we're going to create that same variable. So go to properties and fields. We have the select. We'll paste that. Update SQLite. So nothing here specific. It just is something to make it a little bit easier. So we'll go to the one reference of that, which is down here now. And then this talks about the specific fields, which since we're talking about database's name, we don't want those. So we're going to switch database. We could do this one at a time, or we can just select all of them, and we can switch any of the words that say database with server. Do that. So now it's SQL. Sorry, reverse that. Server with database. Okay. Now we have the database. Is the database? The description is description. Is the database selectable for interface creation? Is that selectable for interface creation? Fine. What we're also missing then is the server ID. Okay. So we would want SQL server ID. Okay. We'll paste that in. So that's our general statement, and then down here we're just checking to make sure that, you know, changes have actually been made. And then in this case it's saying, hey, we're going to add some stuff with values. Again, we're talking about the database, not the server now. So what we can do though is we can reuse this because we do have the parent server ID we'll need to keep. Everything else switches from server to database. Refresh. So this says the variable SQL database ID gets the SQL database ID. If these fields aren't null, then fill them in. Modified by username, modified SQL database name, description if the database is that, and then the parent server ID is also here. It's going to execute the query, and then it will close the connection. It will report back that it's no longer dirty, and then it will report back true. And then down here it returns the return value, right? So this update SQL database now has one time it gets called, which is here. So we're going to test it again. Sounds like a lot. Hopefully it's not too complicated. But we're gonna go to data, servers, here, databases, here, edit, okay, okay, save. No changes detected. Okay. Save. No changes detected. Okay. Why are no changes detected? Because this is the detail page. This is, I have made changes. My guess is the database model, when I make these changes, is not flagging them as being made. So we would say tracking fields dot mark dirty. Okay, so if the name changes, mark it dirty. If the description changes, mark it dirty. If the parent server ID changes, mark it dirty. And then this one as well, if the selectability, okay, so this one actually was already in here to mark it dirty. So that one works. So we'll save that, and we will go back to that page. And databases, we have to fix that too, but let's go back to servers, server 2, database here, edit, okay, let's correct something, whatever, we'll move it to server 3, save, okay, no logic, near SQL Server syntax error, alright, let's go up to pause, debug, step out. Okay, let's step out of this and see what's going on. So somewhere in here, alright, so this says update T-SQL database set, whatever it is, okay. SQL database name, description, interface creation, SQL Server ID, update Sqlite. What's interesting though is that it's saying if the timestamp field is not false. Oh, you know what? We're just going to switch this to that. Okay, and then timestamp field is current timestamp, record modified BL field, same thing. And then that should put us there too. So I think that should help. Continue. Save. Okay, so near SQL Server ID syntax error. Fine, let's break it. Debug, step out. Yep, get out of the message box. Step out. Okay, so it's where SQL database ID equals SQL database ID. You know what, there it is. I'm missing a comma. That's all it takes. Just missing a comma. Okay, cool. Continue. And it will decompile and recompile and do all the fun stuff. Stop. Try again. Let's make sure it updates. So we go to our data, servers, server 2, databases, SDB, related. Okay, so this is the database. edit. All right, we'll change that to server 3. 3, save. No such column is database selectable for interface creation. Really? Well, probably because we need to go over to SQLite and make that field on the table structure. Yep, we do. Okay. Okay. Yep. And we should. Oh, it's not showing. There we go. Okay, so now it's showing in the screen, which is fine. So according to this, it's saved. I prompt went away. And if we went back to the server, we now have 2 of them, and the other one should have gone to number 3. So we go back to server list, go to 3. Okay, databases, it's now here. Okay, very good. This means I have the ability of adding them and editing them and all that fun stuff. And we have servers we can work with. We have databases. We need to be able to show databases properly. And then after that, we'll need schemas. And we'll need tables, which we don't have any information on tables. We probably could benefit from showing the count of each one here, and then once we have tables, we'll need the fields from those tables, which is where it starts to get all sorts of complicated. So what does this all come up to? So if we create a new record, and let me modify my screen capture. Okay. So for this, when we want to pick a server, then we can pick a server. Yeah, I don't need that prompt all the time. Okay, and then we have that. Then we have the database. Then we should see the schemas within the database. But we don't have any schemas yet. We don't even have an add and refresh button here yet. But then we could flip back, but it won't let us flip back apparently. Okay, and then this is coming up. It's prompting us that no changes were detected, but we don't need that prompt. So that's a little strange. But okay. So we'll get rid of that window capture. And that works for me. Okay. So I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be right back.
people finna see me shine, left them behind. Cause baby, I got money on my mind, dollar signs. Just want it to be mine, want it to be mine. And that's why I know they don't wanna see me ball. Baby, I can hear that money call. Hundreds in my hands and I'ma spend them at the mall. You hating with no best and you ain't got nothing at all. I ain't gonna fall, I'm just a goose if I send all of my money tall. I'm getting money so I'ma keep proving them wrong. People they hating but finna keep playing my song, playing my songs. Hopping on a plane, baby, I'm gone. Run, run, fast as I can. You know where I'm going, you know who I am. Not one to say that I can't. Threatening me, drawing lines in the sand. Adrenaline is pumping, all or nothing, feel it coming. Hear my heartbeat thundering, you're still wondering where it's coming from. Feel it in my chest, now it's in my head. Do you understand? My blood, my blood, my bloodstream. My blood, my blood, my bloodstream. My blood, my blood, my bloodstream. My blood, my blood, my bloodstream.
You must think I have a death wish, leaving everybody breathless. It's always my time, the city is mine. You should learn to just accept it. Royalty is in my DNA. I'll never be the type to settle for okay. See me coming up, yeah, I'm on the way. Carved out of stone, it'll never fade. Heart of a gladiator, I'm back on my Terminator. One look and they turn to vapor. I'm kind of an instigator, but not of the frying pan, but life's an incinerator. Be feeling my energy like I'm plugged to a generator. Accelerating till it's full speed. No weapon form will prosper against me. Do you understand? Do you understand? Do you understand?
My blood, my blood, my bloodstream. 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 Venom in my veins, sparks go up in flames, can't just walk away. Reckless is my name, overkill insane, careful what you say. My blood, my blood, my bloodstream. 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 My blood, my bloodstream. My blood, my blood, my bloodstream.
Astro, no. What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean. Ay, what you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean. She say that I'm cool. I'm like, yeah, that's true. I believe in G-O-D, don't believe in T-H-O-T. She keep playing me dumb, I'm a player for fun. Y'all don't really know my mental, let me give you the picture like stencil. Falling out in a drought, no flow rain wasn't pouring down. See that pain was all around, see my mode was kinda lounge. Didn't know which way to turn, flow was cool but I still felt burned. Energy up, you can feel my surge, I'ma kill like this purge. Let's just get this straight for a second. I'ma work, even if I don't get paid for progression. I'ma get it. Everything that I do is electric. I'ma keep it in a motion, keep it moving like kinetic. Put this shit in a frame, better know I don't blame everything that I say. Man, I seen you deflate. Let me elevate. This ain't a prank. Have you walking on a plane? Both hands together, God, let me pray. I've been going right around, call that relay. Pass the baton, back in the mall, swimming in the pool, can't drink them all. Want a piece of this, a piece of mine, my piece of sign. Can you please read between the lines? My rhymes inclined to break your spine. They say that I'm so fine, you could never match my grind. Please do not waste my time. What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean. Ay, what you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call that mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean.
Yeah, let's go. I'm unstoppable, do the impossible. I'm irresponsible, yet I'm phenomenal. I got an arsenal, I'm dropping bombs, you know. No, I'm not stopping, no. Conquer the obstacle. To the top, here I go, think I'm chosen to be the king of rock, think the people have spoken. I can hear the tick-tock of the clock, I'm in motion. So now I'm gonna pop, causing all this commotion.
Yeah, sometimes I think that I'm unstoppable. Yeah, ready to go, man, lock and load. That's right, I swear to God that I could drop you, bro. Yeah, I got a shot and I ain't stopping, no. That's how I know that I'm unstoppable. That's how I know that I'm unstoppable.
Yeah, let's go. I don't care what they all say. That's right. I'ma do this thing my way. Let's go. Been grinding hard on it all day. Okay. We work hard, then we all play. Yeah. I'm addicted to the grind, man. That's right. So I refuse to waste time, man. Yeah. One day it all will be fine, man. Let's go. Gotta commit to the climb. You know we're back with the Guinness, setting records every minute, every track. In addiction to the fact that we're winning, still we lack something's missing. Need a track that is hitting, making racks, making millions. If you ask, that's the mission. I don't waste time, no, I make time. All these people wanna hate, fine, I'ma make mine. While you sitting there complaining, I'll be training. While you sitting there just waiting, I'm creating.
Yeah, sometimes I think that I'm unstoppable.
All right,
Yeah,
we're back, hopefully for
go, man, lock and load.
a good while here.
That's right, I swear to God that I could drop you, bro. Yeah, I got a shot and I ain't stopping, no. That's how I know that I'm unstoppable. That's how I know that I'm unstoppable.
Ooh, excuse me. Oh, right? So let's see what we can get rocking with this, because the whole purpose of, well, yeah, okay. I'm gonna put myself on mute and I'm gonna turn my music up.
This on my own. Every day will test me. Nobody will ever fucking catch me. I live to be the best. This is all I got. I ignore the pain, cause the pain will never stop. You're better than this. I'm better than this. You're better than this. I'm better than this. You're bigger than this. I'm better than this. You're bigger than this. I'm better than this. You're bigger than this. You're bigger than this. I'm better 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 than this. I'm bigger than this. It's not because of that. It's not because of money. Works in my blood, and I'm not because I'm hungry. I'm because I'm hungry. I'm because I'm hungry. It's not because of that. It's not because of money. Works in my blood, and I'm not because I'm hungry. I'm because I'm hungry. Because I'm hungry. I'm gonna carry this on my fucking blood.
I ain't tryna bring you down, but for real, you might as well give up now. Think you got a chance, but I don't see how. Got a real tight grip when I hold that crown. My life been good and bad and all around. The more things I lost, the more I found. One thing I taught myself to do, no matter the problem, refuse to lose. So, how you want it, man? You can choose. If you can't take the heat, don't light the fuse. See, I walk in slow and ignite the room. Like fire, everything I touch, I consume. I'm getting up while y'all just snooze. While you make breakfast, man, I'm on the move. I'm the first one in and the last one out. Whoever owns the place gotta drag me out. In me I trust, yeah, I smell like success, this Elon Musk, huh? Everybody wanna be like us, we don't stop cause the top just ain't enough, huh? I ain't never gave no fucks, I ain't scamming, you know black men don't blush, huh? Came here ready to fight on this night, you better just run for your life. You better run for your life. You were not prepared for the night. You better run for your life. You were not prepared for the night. Open up your eyes, see the light. You don't have a chance inside. You better run for your life. You were not prepared for the night. Won't you come and see what it's like? Living by the rules that you write. You ain't know those lavish delights. Now you ain't no back in sight. All the little lies you recite just makes all the savage unite. Usually I'm very polite, but I'ma get savage tonight. Even when a dog being nice, every single dog gonna bite. You might think I'm wrong, but I'm right. Just let it get a strong appetite. I'ma let it breathe just a little. Give it to you strong, heavy metal. I don't make a sound when I strike. You better just run for your life. Run for your life.
funny, 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 funny what money can do. I'm running, running, running to the money, money, money. Ain't it funny what money can do?
But my energy is my guarantee. There is no limit. Unfinished business. See, my energy became my currency. There is no limit. Unfinished business. The energy's a magic cause we turn up. Pull up all black understatement cause you heard of us. Yeah, I see your eyes, you're acting like you don't. I'd rather have my enemies close. Buy my mother all the time that she deserve it. Leaving all the pressure on this world, enjoy the journey. We came too far in this life to call it just nice. I need some more spice to feed my appetite. Yeah.
Funny, 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 funny what money can do. I'm running, running, running to the money, money, money. Ain't it funny what money can do?
But my energy is my guarantee. There is no limit. Unfinished business. See, my energy became my currency. There is no limit. Unfinished business. Have you ever fell apart? Tell me you know what it's like. Hiding in the dark, always looking for the light. I've been feeling so alone, I've been trapped in my mind, and it's all I've ever known. I've been dying inside. I don't know where to start, I got way too many questions. Bleeding from the heart, I can't handle my reflection. Feel like no one's home, hate to look at myself. Try to do it on my own, but I really need help, I'm falling. Here we go again, it's just another sad song. Grab the mask and play pretend, but everything is going wrong. You say it's okay, but I don't know how to feel anything but cloudy gray, so I take another pill. Leave me to burn, I'm crashing down. I didn't mean to hurt you, I'm lashing out. I don't think you understand it. Guess I'm pessimistic, it's just been so hard to manage. Damn, I'm coming undone, but I hang on tightly. Don't fall, is there anybody like me? I need your voice, so make it loud and clear. I'll try to drown the noise and face all my fears. I hide away, but I'll find a way to make it out of this. And I promise I'll get away, cause there's better days ahead. That's what you said, but have you ever fell apart? Tell me you know what it's like. Hiding in the dark, always looking for the light. I've been feeling so alone, I've been trapped in my mind, and it's all I've ever known. I've been dying inside. I don't know where to start, I got way too many questions. Bleeding from the heart, I can't handle my reflection. Feel like no one's home, hate to look at myself. Try to do it on my own, but I really need help, I'm falling. Way too many nights of staring out into the
Alright.
void. I should do it if I did
Let's
another
get back
life
to
would be
this.
destroyed. Maybe I'm useless, I'm just exhausted. I've been counting my losses, now I found what the cost is. I'm down and low into the place I go, where everything is crumbling and I lose
So,
hope. It's
essentially,
so just hold
if
on. The storm is coming in, but nobody ever knows it. I will never show it. Pencil to the paper, that's the way that I've been coping. Only dead roses.
building up history,
To my grave, yeah, I'm sorry for the woes. I'll be
is just
stronger
error.
every day.
Where are we? Oh, we had a break. Okay, so let's take us out of the break. Continue. Alright, no such column. Interface creation. SQL table ID. Okay, so view interface creation is missing a SQL table ID. So let's go there. It does seem to be missing table ID. So we're gonna put it in on the servers. Yeah. Database schema. Good. Okay. Join T-SQL table on interface creation dot SQL table ID equals T-SQL table SQL table ID. SQL. Oh, well, the table doesn't exist yet. Huh. Okay. Well, the table's got to exist first before we can really bring that stuff in. So let's go over to table actions. Okay. And table information, SQLite standard statements, select SQL, update SQL where. Right, but it's not properties and fields, it's part of the methods. So then we have SQLite table methods where we have create table SQL table. Yep. And so then we have table name, table description. This one says is server selectable, so we would say is table selectable. Okay. Which is fine. And there's going to be a bunch of other fields that ends up going with this. So delete all, drop all, and then this one's not being used anywhere. So when we do our open event here, for instance, okay, create local table and all objects, we can then go to create all tables and views. And inside of here, we had database, schema. This one says interface creation, but technically we would need another one, which is going to be SQL table actions. SQL table actions equals new. Okay, SQL table actions dot create table SQL table light, or create table Sqlite. So this is going to create the table in SQLite called T SQL table. Is it a Windows specific app? It's for Windows. Yeah, it's for Windows desktop. Not sure if you can hear me or not, but yes, it's a Windows desktop application. So I'm trying to make it so that the interface has basically a SQLite database local, and then that's where it would contain most of the data, and then it will manipulate things on the SQL Server. Oh, you can hear me. Okay. So you had music on your side. Fair enough. Hopefully my music's not too loud. I'll pull it down a little bit. Okay. So hopefully you can see it okay. I'm trying to share Windows without like notifications coming up from my desktop, but so all of these different lists are things that it's going to keep in the local SQLite database. So I have to create a list of tables now, because we're going to say, hey, we're going to connect to a server, and then that server is going to have a list of databases, and then the database is going to have some schemas, and the schemas will have some tables. And so you'll pick from these what you're working with, and then based on that information about the table, which if you've picked it before, it would still have information about it in the SQLite database, and then it'll fill in information about that, so it makes it even faster to work with again. So, little things, I think. Let me refresh my other screen. Okay, so it does look like SQL table. The table now exists, which means I can update my view. And have a table name now. Yep. SQL database description. Perfect. So now I have the interface creation view, which I've modified and improved. So we'll close out of my pop-up. We can go to our history, and it says indexed outside of the bounds of the array. Does the data always stay local? So for this particular application, I'm trying to make it so like the data that the application wants to remember is local, because I just want it to be a quick install without a backend server. And then it's meant to help a developer build components for other stuff. So you would basically say, hey, I'm going to connect to an existing database, but I don't want to have to like host a shared backend database to manage all this. I haven't like figured out that part of it yet, but you know, it's really meant to be a tool that I can like hand somebody on a USB drive or tell them to install it, and then they can just run it, and it won't have to have a connection somewhere else. It's you know, one of the challenges, like getting started quickly and then they configure it if they want to. Yeah, it's really meant to speed up the development process of this kind of thing, and it's really meant like it's gonna sound selfish, but you know, developing WPF apps at work, I'm doing literally the same thing. Every data set. Oh, I need a list form to list out the data. Oh, I need a pop-up form that allows you to add new data. I need a detail form to let you edit the data, you know, so it's over and over and over and over again. It's the same thing. And so I just want to start with all of the template stuff made up and structured. And then I can define it, you know, then it would be in my outbound project, it would be in my actual local project somewhere, right? But of course, the problem with work is you can't connect to a lot of outside services. You know, it's restricted internet stuff, it's restricted whatever. So I don't want this to have to try and fight a firewall to get to an outside database to function. I want to work very quickly and just have the data local to the person's computer, to my computer, and then run, right? And if somebody else wants to use it, then they would have a complete blank slate, essentially. So that's where I'm kind of at is, and if I hit add new, that's pop-up window is not being shared, but give me 1 second, I can probably share it. Overall instruct, yeah, okay, so that's the one it's sharing in my stream now, which is the pop-up window. So if I go in here, then I can say, okay, like which server am I working with? Which server do I want to connect to? Because when you are doing development, you might be talking to a development server, you might be talking to a test server, you might be talking to a production server. Hopefully not, but maybe you are. And then, you know, then after the server, then you're going to pick on a database. And then after the database, you're going to pick on a schema and then a table, right? And then once you have a table, then you have some standard stuff about the table and whatever, right? But every time you interact with this, you can see I'm already on record 19. I want it to remember that you did that because as you go through all of the steps that'll be outlined on the left, you'll hit a button and you'll say, hey, make me stuff. And then it'll do a bunch of things. It'll write a bunch of code, and it'll time it. So I want it to time it and estimate how much time did it save. Is the concept, right? So we'll see. Trying something, you know, you never know. So I'm still getting emails from work, and that's on a screen that I can't share right now, but that's why my share is a little weird sometimes, just because like notifications and stuff like that, they come up there in the way. Okay, so ooh, interesting. Somebody sent me a 3D file. I can't share it, but I can certainly show it. Trying to fix a PDF. The whole thing shifts to the next page if there's a lot of rows. Yeah. I used to have I used to make databases in MS Access, and it would output to PDFs. And there were some properties in there that said, hey, if we have too many rows, make sure you add headers and footers and stuff to the next page to make sure it's contextually makes sense. you know, or do you want to keep the header and all the pages together or stuff like that? So there's options. It depends on which language you're using and which platform and stuff like that might, you know, make it more or less difficult to do that sort of thing. Well, that's interesting. I have a big file someone wants me to print. It's all on FE, so JS. Okay. Not sure what FE is, but JS, I'm guessing JavaScript. That's my guess. And I apologize if there's a bunch of noise in the background. I got a front end. Gotcha. Yeah. It just depends on what kind of front end, right? Because I've written Access as a front end. In this case, it's WPF as a front end. You know, there's a bunch of different stuff you could make a front end out of. Kind of sliver. Well, anyway, I digress. So a couple of quick bugs that I wanted to fix. I wanted to open up the new form, pick a server. It gives me a weird prompt about no changes detected. I want to get rid of that. So I'm gonna find out. Okay. Yep. So we would need some sort of a prompt, and we're going to change the standard update action, okay, to either provide a notification or not provide a notification about updating. So if we go to our Sqlite, oh, in browser JavaScript, yeah, gotcha. Yeah. I mean, for the most part, this is front end stuff, especially on this side, but I also do the back end stuff. So I do the database design, you know, type of stuff as well, and reports optimizations and business logic and all that fun jazz. For the most part, when I deal with backend, it's SQL Server, but a lot of that relies on, you know, the network being functional. And my primary application right now is being used on tablet PCs, and they're wandering around a very large property, and Wi-Fi isn't the greatest. So unfortunately, when they go to enter an issue, Wi-Fi's not on, application crashes. And it's like, oh, well, you can't do anything until you get back on Wi-Fi. So then they're walking 100 yards the other way, trying to get back on Wi-Fi. So I want the application to have a SQLite backend, and then they can save the records there, see that a record exists locally that doesn't exist on the server. Then when they are able to talk to the server again, they send up all the notifications, all of the data. That way it won't crash and it won't be reliant on the Wi-Fi. So that's a lot of weird backend design. If that makes any sense. But anyway, so I have this method here, and we're going to put in a boolean of prompt on no changes found equals true. All right, so we'll do prompt on no changes found. And essentially what I'm going to do with this is in check values, we're checking to see if the record's dirty, right? And if the record's not dirty, then there's nothing that's supposed to happen. But if prompt on no changes found is true, then we'll do this. Otherwise, we don't need to do anything. So by default, it'll be true. But this will go to our interface creation, our actions, Okay, we'll go to update, put this here. Okay, check values, and then we can say if prompt on no changes found, then we have that. Okay, and then we're still going to return out. But so we're going to put a break there. I'll try this again. So that works. And we'll open up a new tab again. We'll pick a table, and it's saying that. Okay, yep. So still prompting on no changes found, which is exactly what we knew it was going to do. But so update interface creation has several calls, right? So this one here, where it says save record, is one side, and we're trying to make it save automatically when certain actions happen. So browser to store data, and then as soon as it connects to the internet, server. Yeah, you can do it a variety of ways. I just figured having a Sqlite DB locally, even if the person clears the browser cache clears or whatever, the local SQL DB doesn't. And I can structure local SQL DB, local SQLite DB to be almost identical. And it'll be persistent, whether it's shutoffs or browser upgrades or whatever, and then it's not dependent on like which browser do they use. Do they use Chrome? Do they use Edge? Do they use Mozilla? Whatever. It'll all be local. So it is what it is. But here we go. Okay, so this one says makes sense with Windows. Yep, that's the plan at the moment. So okay, well when I click the save button, we do that. When where was it? Detail, save record, populate combo boxes, update. Okay. If we went to our interface creation, new. Okay, this happens after they select, or after I select the value in the server dropdown. And selected value changes. Okay, and it basically says, hey, this is loaded, get the list. This says VM list templates, which is weird. That's not what I'm trying to do at all. So we're gonna check on that. And then it says update current record. Okay, so this is what we'll say false. Same thing here, false. But why would changing this not make a change happen? So the selection has changed for the SQL Server. We go to our model, properties fields, SQL Server ID. Okay, so it's supposed to mark it dirty here, probably if it's loaded, and then SQL Server is here. So this one says if the value is not null, and if the value is not null, and the value is null, and the circles. Wait, the value is null, and the existing record is not null, then make it null. Okay. So when we set the SQL Server, it's going to set the SQL Server ID. SQL Server ID then would mark it as dirty only if it's been loaded. And yeah, that should be loaded already. So let's try it again. Okay, new record, table, pick a server. Okay, so it does say mark it dirty, and loaded is true, editable is true, so dirty should now be true. Okay. Okay, this is where it says list templates. and that really shouldn't, but it's getting to here. List SQL databases. Yep. So it's going to get the databases within that. Prompt if tracking fields is dirty. But wait, did we just get here from somewhere else? Okay, so I think it might be calling this function 2 different times. That's strange. So we have new, line 84, when you change the server, and then line 95, when you change the database, which also should set it up. Okay. So put that there. We're going to go to the definition of this, and it's not list templates. It's supposed to be list SQL databases. It's more like a refresh list because I don't want that confused, but we have that. So list SQL databases. Go back. Okay. Good. Refresh. Data, servers, no. Okay, new table, pick a server. Okay, so it should be marking it dirty. Yeah. And it gets to here. Ah, that is why. Okay. So it's filling in the database list, and then it's attempting to call the save because it's set an object in here, and then it's attempting to call the save, but there's nothing to save because it's already saved it the first time. Okay, so then we can set the database, we can continue, and then that's where it would then call it again because then the schema would be set up. Okay, cool. So that makes sense, but we do need I need add and refresh buttons for the schema and the table, and then I'm going to need a bunch of information about the table. So need a bunch of information about the table, such as its name, its subject, etc., etc. So I'll have to make sure that that table is correct. So we need to add and refresh buttons to each of these drop downs. So we'll close this. Okay. We'll close out all that. So let's go to interface creation. So the schema combo box has a label above it. Very similar. To this, and then we had to put a grid above it, essentially. So let's move this up. Okay. Split the window.
I'm a soldier. I'm a fighter. I'm a soldier, fighter, holder. Stand on my feet till my fight is over. Kamikaze chosen, hard like I'm frozen. Planning everything to be on top of my conscience. Stronger resistance, stronger power. Never want no failure, I don't know no failure.
So we have the database one up top, and the buttons are hidden because nothing's been selected yet, right? It's disabled. But then the bottom one needs to have a grid the same way. So this would have a grid, and it would have 3 column definitions, and then it has the label and then the buttons. So this is our label for schema, and that's what we're going to do, is we're just going to create a grid directly by the label here, and then we're going to end the grid like that, okay? And that should be the SQL schema label. Very similar to how we did it up here. We can't have it named the same thing. So grid SQL schema. Okay, that makes it pretty easy. And we'll just do that. Column definitions are the same. Okay. And
Look, about to motivate, make the stakes higher, take your what's ours, time to pay piper, with a squadron that'll swim across a lake of fire, just to add another brick to the empire. No outsiders, keep the love tribal, spread them like virus, about to go primal, fans shaking up the stands when they go wild, execution is the plan, we don't hold trials, apply the kind of
do I know how much this thing's gonna help me when it's done? I just do not like the intricacies of going through it to make it work really the way that I want it to work. Is just difficult. Okay, so this refresh SQL schema. Okay, schema. Click. Definition. Yep. And then visibility would be based on combo SQL database. Okay. Add SQL schema. Click. Okay. Database. Okay. And essentially, once you pick the database, then the buttons appear next to the schema header, because clicking the add schema button would automatically do that next stage. Okay. So page loaded is loaded, make record editable, which is fine, unloaded. So we're going to take the end region for methods, move it actually to the end again. Okay. So the same way that we had a button to add a server, and then this one says refresh SQL database, and it actually would be VM list SQL databases, like so. This is then add SQL Server. We probably have a button to add a SQL database. We would then need another one to add a SQL schema, which if we just go to the definition of this, and yep, basically the same problem. Add SQL schema. Okay, so if the SQL database is null, then do nothing. Otherwise, it's going to use not SQL database actions, but we're going to use SQL schema actions. Okay, so we have this one, SQL schema actions, nav2, SQL schema list, no, nav2 SQL schema new, nav2 SQL schema new, which then doesn't have an overloaded value yet. Creating a new SQL schema that is overloaded to have multiple options to putting stuff in. This is just the page, right? But we want one that takes values. Okay, so the same way we did it with SQL database actions, and we have add database, no, it's nav to SQL database detail list new. Same sort of way here, we took the list of SQL servers and parent SQL server. It wasn't horrible because it was just one combo drop down and then one item. I guess we could do two combo drop downs and again one item, because that's really what it is. So let's grab this and we'll go to SQL schema actions, go here. So we'll end up doing two lists. So we're doing parent SQL database, okay, and we'll do SQL database model, okay, and then we'll just do another collection of SQL databases, SQL database model of list SQL databases. Okay, so in here then, if we wanted it to look like this, okay, and we have our declaration and our set. So let's do side by side with that. So we can then do SQL schema new view model, okay. The view model we're working with is going to be equivalent to SQL schema new view model from page.data context. Okay. And essentially that means we're gonna just put the list in there. So we would then say list. Oh, right, because the new view model probably doesn't have those items. So we have actions, we have the new record, but we don't have the two collections to be displayed. Okay, well that's super fun. I will be right back.
This one right here is for all y'all who not only have a dream, but you know it's time to get it. I got one chance to get it right, so you know I'm grinding every night. I ain't never back down from a fight. If you try to stop me, it's on sight. I ain't here to play games, nah. Gotta get it, gotta go to the top, never stop. Man, the best is all I know. Was a diamond in the rough, now I'm going for the gold, and I'm about to shine bright. No Tiffany and Co. If you wanna be the best, you gotta do what 99.9% won't do. Show me boss. Go beast mode. Go beast mode. Making money, making moves, breaking records, breaking rules, staying far from the fools. All we really wanna do is lay low and improve, stay broke, never do. Now the riches coming through, and the women coming too. I can't even trust them too, cause they'll do anything for a crib with a view. And they sleeping on me then, so I put them on a snooze and focus on the grind, only way to never lose. Yeah, only way to never lose is to never snooze. Stay up, stay working, push past the pain. Ain't no such thing as perfection. We're gonna get so damn close. It's on you. Go beast mode. If you want to be the best, you gotta do what 99.9% won't do.
When the sun rises, I wake up and chase my dreams. I won't regret when the sun sets, cause I live my life like I'm a beast. I'm a motherfucking
Hey yo, back to make you run around again like it's a fire. I spit acid, bitch, like I got cyanide in my saliva. Watch me wet and heat shit up like I'm a washer in a dryer. While I beat you in your head until you tired.
I'm a motherfucking beast.
See the way we got all my niggas is open. I'm doing it again, tripping in the wrong stain. Got a nigga while I like it in the bullpen. Look at it wishing it had to be hoping. That I would diminish and I stop and I will finish, but I drop and always kill a nigga hotter than a skillet. Think you fucking with the guard, you gotta be joking. Every single time you niggas see me step inside the door, killing everything with 1,000 gorillas behind me. So I suggest you bounce and let your chick eat my salami slow. While I continue to dance on niggas in the hood with that tsunami flow. Get back, homie, before you get snapped. I even got a bitch strapped in a club with a snub nose while I make 'em black with a banging and a crack. Niggas in a can of pack, everybody till the club close. Haters, I see you sitting over there. That's why you see me blacking everywhere.
Motherfucking beast. I'm a motherfucking beast. I'm a motherfucking beast. Fucking motherfucking beast. I'm a motherfucking beast. You know what? Motherfucking beast. You know what? Motherfucking beast. You know what? Motherfucking beast. You know what?
I'm a motherfucking beast ride. Homie, welcome to the east side where the killers reside. We playing world games, please hide. Ain't no signs of peace, so fuck a peace sign. We ride. Bust shots from the car seat, or maybe hang you to your neck is broke. Choke you with a stethoscope. That's how I kill a motherfucker in a heartbeat on a dark street.
Motherfucking beast.
I'm a motherfucking beast ride. Keep it 357 in the Levi's when the beef fries. House gang hoodie is the disguise. Look in these eyes. Last thing you gon' see when the heat flies. Yo, is it be dumb or is it the city we from? Got us killing each other over these breadcrumbs. You fuck with me, it's gonna be cranberry and 151. That's murder backwards. Red rum. I done seen a nigga double with the pistol bullet coming out the window of a rental situation. Detrimental. Little kids are getting caught up in the middle when they killing's accidental. That's why I'm keeping a pistol. Matter of fact, capture my enemy, kidnap him, slap him in the back of the infinity bandana to mask the identity and start spazzing like Charles Manson. No absent intimacy. Fight back, attack me with energy. Right back to add to your injury. When I write raps, you have to have a bachelor's in chemistry or a master's in math to be in the actual vicinity to pass.
death, there ain't no other choices. When I lay down and go to sleep, I keep on hearing voices. Little whispers in my head, man, is you fake or loyal? Why no water, death designer, baby, pick your poison. These little demons living underneath my bed, creeping. Know the real monster lives above them all, sleeping. That subtle breathing in your closet every single evening. Thought you never see me again, looks can be deceiving. When they hear the sound of the drum, they'll be saying, oh Lord, here they come. Yeah, here we come. Here we come. Here we come. Here we come. I used to think that people die because they wicked. Nowadays people wanna see you dead because you gifted. Been ready for my tomb since I came up out the womb. So no matter what, I'm coming back and paying you a visit. Saw it coming, I predicted, but y'all wouldn't listen. No, you can't protect your riches if you never burn bridges. Flip pages, went places, made changes, still dangerous. Now I'm back, altercation, hold still. I make it painless how it feel, baby. When you say you love me, is it real, baby? Full speed, both hands on the wheel, baby. Young Taz coming from the Mobile, baby. You know the drill, baby. Yeah. And when you hear the sound of the drum, we'll be saying, here we come. Yeah, here we come. Hey, here we come. Here we come. Here we come. Yeah, here we come. Hey, here we come. Hey, here we come. Here we come.
I needed something, someone to trust in, yeah. I needed something to get me through this life. Never saw you coming, and now we're just running, yeah. You make me feel nothing when we're driving through the night. And I've been looking all around at the places you and I were seeing so many different faces. We're just cruising right on through this life with the playlist, and everything is right. Never really thought I would make it. Found someone new I don't think I'll ever replace. And I'm empty in my heart so you can just take it. I'm living my best life. And I feel so alive with you by my side. We can make a life. I've got nothing to hide. Driving so fast, every time fast. Never look back, we're good at that. Cause I feel so alive. Damn, you look good tonight. 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 We're driving through rain, running through sun and looking at planes. We're cruising through towns, moving all around, but you stay the same. We like to run away, we're ditching all our pain and living for today.